Welcome into AllSunDevils. Millard Thomas and Donnie Druin here with you today. Donnie, how are you doing today, sir?
Millard basketball season is underway. I'm doing phenomenal, keeping super busy at AllSunDevils.com, basketball, football coverage, and maybe even a little shout out for the women's team here at the end. So
Yeah,
definitely
ASU.
doing great.
Yeah, ASU men's basketball got a nice 16-point win. ASU women's basketball, the real
Mhm.
stars over here at the Sun Devil Nation, won by 30 yesterday, 71-41. So shout out the women's basketball team. But let's first start off, Donnie. Let's first start with ASU football because football is the king of all sports. And
Mhm.
ASU football, they had an interesting game over the weekend. The score says 31-16, but I think it was a lot closer than that because it was 17-16 entering the fourth quarter before ASU pulled away. We saw Rashad White rush for over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Phenomenal. But Jaden Daniels, not that efficient, a couple interceptions as well. So we got to see the good and the bad from ASU. Donnie, how did you feel after that ASU victory on Saturday? Because I know you were in the building.
Oof, man. I think at this point in the season, you can kind of almost be thankful that a win is a win, right? I mean, for everything we've seen the Sun Devils team go through, you're almost kind of glad that, whatever fashion or W comes in, whatever form it may arrive in, it's there. And, Arizona State at least needing to win the last 4 games of their season to even have a hope of winning the Pac-12 South and, eventually hitting into a, Pac-12 title game in December. It needed to start with a win against USC, and that's exactly what they went out and did. Not convincing by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, man, there are so many things the
Mhm.
Sun Devils team needs to clean up in order to kind of be the team everybody thinks they can be in Tempe. But I mean, they pulled away whenever the bell rung they needed to most. I feel like the Arizona State defense stepped up major in the second half. Only 2 second half field goals. Both of them came in the third quarter. Facing a 2 quarterback system, I know it does a lot for the offense and, not necessarily letting those guys get in a rhythm, but still kind of not knowing what to expect on the play to play basis and still being able to limit them. It's just a really good job by defensive coordinator Antonio Pierce and all of his soldiers that followed to execute that game plan. And I hate to keep bagging on Jaden. I really do because I really like him. I think he's a really nice dude. He's a very talented college quarterback, but man, the throwing inconsistencies week in and week out have come back to haunt them sometimes. I mean, there were certain plays where Jaden could have had a few more touchdowns added to his resume, a few more splash plays made, and a couple very bad decisions away from just not turning the ball over, allowing Arizona State to keep possession of the ball and grind a little bit more clock out. That's not what we saw from Saturday. Not what we saw from Jaden against USC. Not what we've seen from Jaden for majority of the season. So he still remains a very big talking point for better or for worse. But at the end of the day, ASU got the dub. Can't really complain. Although you kind of can at the same time, right?
Yeah, you definitely can because I'm starting to run out of ways on how to talk about and describe this ASU passing attack because, like you said, Jaden Daniels has struggled once again. 2 more interceptions. He now has I believe 7 picks on the year after only throwing 3 in his first 16 starts in the ASU uniform. So basically, Daniels is working backwards, and I don't really know how to fix the issue. Is it the scheme? Is it too difficult, too complex for him? I feel like he has the talent and the smarts to do it, but he threw those receivers. It was a little late, a little behind those receivers on those interceptions, but also it's not like the receivers are helping him out a ton either. They're not getting a ton of separation. If it's not a scheme where some pick play where the guy gets open that way, these guys aren't separating themselves, and I just don't know how to fix the passing attack. These guys are also dropping a lot of balls. Like even the times that Jaden Daniels does make a really good pass, the receivers don't always come down with it. I know that as a Saints fan watching Sunday's game because Trevor Siemian was diming up people and he wasn't getting bailed out by his receivers. So ASU needs to step up for their receivers, or excuse me, ASU receivers need to step up for their quarterback because it just hasn't been the case enough this season. It hasn't seemed like though Daniels with his receivers haven't been on the same page. It seems like the entire season, and I don't know who to blame. Is that Daniels? Is that the receivers, the combination, the coaching staff? Like I don't know who to put it on, Donnie.
And I feel like it's got to be a little bit of everybody, right? I mean, at a certain point as a coach, you have to scheme up the right plays. You have to get those guys open, which we've seen at times this year. And then for the receivers, you've got to get yourself open, right? I mean, you're not really doing Jaden a whole bunch of favors if you're not getting yourself open, and you got to come down with the ball. I mean, as bunch of we have ragged on Jaden on this podcast, a lot of flack needs to head to the receivers as well. Top to bottom, those guys haven't been able to consistently either create separation or come down with the football. And that even goes to the tight ends as well. So a little bit of the blame needs to go on them. And then obviously Jaden being the quarterback, deciding when and where the football goes. The overall decision making has got to improve. And it's so weird to say because he was really a guy that was touted for his ability to, keep the ball safe through his first 2 years as a Sun Devil. So extremely weird and inordinary, whatever word you want to use to describe it. Just not the passing attack it could be. And just week to week, you're really hoping those guys can get something going, hoping something can click and, restore that ultimate balance you want to have between a run heavy offense and, the ability to pass whenever you want. And it's just not there.
Yeah, I don't mind the extra interceptions if it's like that Josh Allen, Mahomes type where you're trying to get those big plays and you've actually gotten a lot of those big plays throughout the season. You're actually hitting on those big plays, but every now and then they just get picked off. If Jaden Daniels was right now like a 25 touchdown to 7 pick guy, I think I would be okay with that if he was hitting enough big plays to, drown out those interceptions, but it just hasn't happened for this offense. And I don't know who to blame. So I'm going to move on from the passing attack because I'm tired of talking about the passing attack. I want to talk about the rushing attack. But before we talk about Rachaad White, there was a little interesting wrinkle in this game because Chip, he started off this game hot. He got like 3 carries to start the game. He scored a touchdown, but then he fumbled and we didn't see him back again in the game. Herm Edwards said, we will see Chip running in the next game against Washington, but he did go to the doghouse. Of course, Herm Edwards says it wasn't the doghouse. He says he was riding the hot hand, but you can't help but think Chip has fumbled it twice in the last 2 weeks. And I think he had another fumble like 3 games ago. So now he's got like 3 fumbles in his last 5 games. Like, are you worried Chip could be pretty close to that doghouse?
Nah, I'm not worried. What I will say, though, is that Herm can say all he wants. Chip was absolutely in the doghouse last
Okay.
week. I mean, no disrespect to our boy Daniel Ngata, because that dude is a straight up a beast whenever he's on the field. But we all know Trainum is definitely preferred over Ngata. So whenever you see Ngata trotting out on the field and Trainum is completely healthy, something is up, especially in the game where Trainum did fumble. But moving forward, I mean, you already said it. Herm Edwards said that he just rode the hot hand, and I completely understand it with Rachaad White. I mean, 28 carries, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, how can he not ride with that dude the entire way? Am I worried about Chip? No, I think those fumbles and I think those turnovers are, a bit unlucky. I do think ball security is something that definitely needs to be talked on, definitely needs to be improved on heading into the final 3-game stretch of the season. But, I mean, Trainum is not a notorious fumbler. He's not known to have butter fingers. I think he's just in a bad stretch of games. So I think he just needs to have one solid game to turn things around, and he'll be good from there.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about Chip. And I think the reason Ngata doesn't play more because I feel like he's just kind of redundant. I feel like he kind of has a similar skill set to Rachaad White. So if you got a Rachaad White, you probably don't need to play Ngata the same amount of touches. So Chip is just kind of like a different style back. I think that's why they prefer those two together. But let's give a quick round of applause to Rachaad White, who had a 200-yard game, who had round of applause for the guy, 3-touchdown game. It was the 6th most rushing yards by Sun Devil in Pac-10, Pac-12 history since 1978. I believe Eno Benjamin had over 300 yards in 2018. That was the most. So shout out Eno Benjamin, who all of a sudden is now the backup running back to James Conner on the Cardinals.
Scored his first touchdown.
And scored his first touchdown by running straight through somebody. So we got to see Eno Benjamin with those legs churning on Sunday. But this next game for the Sun Devils, it's going to be very interesting because after that win, the Sun Devils are now bowl eligible as we enter the final 3 games of the season. On Sunday, over the weekend, I guess the game's Saturday. I don't know why I said Sunday. I got my NFL brain on me. But right now, the weather forecast looks like it could be around 50 degrees, 50% chance of rain. And Edwards has talked about, we're going to make this a muddy game. So we're going to see that ground and pound attack in full steam ahead, and we're going to see Chip in there. He's going to be back in there. We're going to see Rachaad White in there. And this team wants to ground the pound this Saturday. But for the outlook for the rest of the season, now that this team is bowl eligible, what are the chances this team makes it to the Alamo Bowl or the, the Las Vegas Bowl, whatever bowl's in Las Vegas, versus the cream of the crop, that Rose Bowl, Donnie?
Yeah, so I think right now, obviously they're bowl eligible. They're going to get into a bowl. It's just a matter of which one. Obviously, bowl games like the Sun Bowl and the Alamo Bowl and the Vegas Bowl,
The Cheez-It Bowl.
no, yeah, the Cheez-It Bowl held in Chase Field. No disrespect to anybody that puts those events on. No disrespect to any of the sponsors, the advertisers. No disrespect to
Here comes
people
disrespect.
who like going to those games. But if I'm a college football player, if I'm an Arizona State Sun Devil, I'm not trying to play in the Alamo Bowl. I'm not trying to play in the Frosted Flakes Bowl. I don't care. Get me to the Rose Bowl. Get me to the Rose Bowl. Get me to a significant bowl game that actually means something. And Millard, we were talking before the podcast about a potential path to the Rose Bowl, just when everybody had thought that all hope was lost. I'm gonna give a shout out to J Pop on ASU Twitter, because I believe he was the first guy to kind of push this narrative, right? ASU can still make the Rose Bowl. It's still a little rosy in Tempe. Let me tell you how. So Oregon currently ranked as a top 4 team in the college football playoff. Let's say they go on to win the Pac-12, which they probably should, probably will. That opens up a spot for another Pac-12 team, should the Rose Bowl committee or whoever decides where to put who in the bowl games, should the Rose Bowl want to add the second best Pac-12 team. Now, granted, it's up for debate because Utah beat ASU. I do think Utah is a better football team. In this dream scenario, Utah is the runner-up to Oregon in the Rose Bowl. But I don't know how you can put a Utah team who lost a Pac-12 championship into a Rose Bowl. It feels extremely weird, especially Millard, if Arizona State has a better overall record with them. Utah plays 3 more games for the rest of the year. Okay. Utah goes on the road to face Arizona this weekend. Back home versus Oregon the week following. And then they finish it up with a home game against Colorado. We're talking about 2 potential matchups with Oregon, 2 potential losses overall, which would look really, really great for Arizona State Sun Devil team that if they went out would have a pretty good argument to get into the Rose Bowl with better overall record than Utah. Now, I get it, head-to-head record. A lot of people are scratching their head, probably listening to everything I just said. Doesn't make sense. Look, I get it. But from a national perspective, they're probably going to want a team with a better record in the Rose Bowl against either Ohio State or whatever Big Ten team is in there if OSU does make a college football playoff. And yeah, I definitely think a path is still there. ASU obviously has to control what they can control, which they haven't exactly done to a T this season. But if it does happen, don't be surprised. All I'm saying.
You bring up the head-to-head and why it doesn't make sense. Well, let me tell people let me tell the listeners something. The idea of the college football playoffs, the rankings, all of it doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure Michigan beat Michigan State last week or vice versa. Whoever lost is currently ranked higher than the other in the rankings. So it does not matter the head-to-heads. I don't even understand the criteria for the rankings and where these teams go. Like, just throw all that aside. ASU has to keep playing well. And that U of A game, I don't know. Maybe it's a swing game if you think recent memory plays into any of this, because if Utah beats U of A like 40-10, like, you best believe ASU is going to try to put up another 70 burger against U of A. And if they end the season with a nice 70 burger, that could be looking pretty good for their resume for the postseason. But just ASU fans, just know the ASU has to keep winning, and you need Utah to keep losing. That's basically boils down. If you want any hope, any chance of the Rose Bowl, that has to happen, because there's a common cliche. I won't believe it till I see it, and I'm not going to believe ASU's in the Rose Bowl till I see it, because I have not seen a lot of good stuff, a lot of good football out of them the last month. So we'll see how ASU rides out the rest of their season. But Donnie, let's transition just a little bit. Let's talk about ASU men's basketball. Right now, they seem to be the apple eye. What's that phrase? The eye of the apple? There's
Apple of
something
the
like
eye, I believe.
apple of the eye. I don't even know what that means, but they seem to be the cream of the crop because ASU football is struggling, and we know ASU basketball. They might have won their first game of the season, but they usually like to start off strong and then tail off as well. All these ASU teams just love to have the same DNA and just get us really frustrated, which is annoying. But Sun Devils now moved to 5-2 in their season openers under Bobby Hurley, so that lets you know right now ASU usually starts off the season pretty good, and then it's usually what happened to ASU as we get toward down the stretch of the season. But first game, they played Portland State. They won 76-60. You were in the building. ASU started off kind of slow in this one. I think they were only 1 of 8 from the floor to start the game, but from the last minute of the first half to the second half, they went on a little 17-5 run. That was basically all ASU needed to lock up this game against Portland State. But Donnie, what were some takeaways you had from this game?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Kamani Lawrence is that dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kamani Lawrence is a very, very good basketball player.
Well, he's like 30, so.
Yeah. It's funny that because in his post-game press conference, he's talking about how he's been here forever. And I'm like, I really wonder like how long he's actually been in Tempe. So I looked it up and I was taken aback. But
do you know when his birthday is? I was trying to Google that yesterday. I was trying to find his birthday because I'm like, if he's a 5th-year senior, I'm like, is he younger or older than me at 24 years old? Because he might be like 23 years old as a 5th-year senior.
Yeah, he's got to be right around that like 23, 24 area if he's a 5th-year senior. But no, I mean, Kamani is good. Marion Jackson didn't have all that great of a debut. There's a lot of hype coming about him, leading the MAC and scoring at Toledo before transferring over here. 2 points, but, tied the team lead with 5 assists. And I think he'll be fine once he eventually gets his feet underneath him. Luther Muhammad looked really good. Marcus Bagley, obviously, is the headlining name, and rightfully so. I mean, he played very, very well. I'm still trying to get my man's name down. Enoch Boach?
Don't even ask me.
I'm still trying to get the last name down, so forgive me. Big man in the paint, Big Enoch. Phenomenal. I mean, this dude reclassified from 2022 to 2021 just so he could play at ASU after decommitting to Michigan State. And I think all of the hype is there. I mean, the presence he provides in the paint is phenomenal. And the ASU won by 16 after not shooting very well from behind the arc. It didn't shoot very well from the stripe at the free throw line. So definitely a lot to work on. Bobby Hurley, obviously, never really satisfied whenever it comes to his team's performance, especially after something like that where they did get out of the gate slow. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be a good basketball team. I don't see them doing anything crazy and winning the Pac-12 over a team like UCLA, because I don't know if you caught any of the UCLA highlights last night, Millard. But
I did not.
They look really good. Obviously, USC and Oregon might also have something to say about that. But in terms of Sun Devils, man, I think this team can be balanced. I mean, 5 starters were in double-digit scoring. Last night, this team can be potentially deep depending on how much of a rotation Bobby Hurley wants to use with them. And I feel like they have a little bit of everything. I feel like, they might have some decent perimeter shooting should that pick up. They have tremendous guard play and obviously Enoch in the paint. If he can continue to improve and, become that dominant big man ASU so badly wants him to be, then yeah, I really like the chances of having a really good year.
Yeah, and ASU didn't even have all their guys last night. Jalen Graham, he was out because of COVID protocols for all these guys. Jalen Graham was out. Jay Heath, transfer. I think he led Boston College in scoring last season. So that's going to be a big boost. And then Justin Rochelin and Jordan Williams as well were out. So overall, I think the biggest takeaway from me, the biggest thing that stood out to me was maybe the athleticism and length. I'm not saying this was a tall team, but they seem pretty long. They seem pretty athletic as well. We know Marcus Bagley could jump out the gym. The guy that really stood out to me might have been Alonzo Gaffney, who was acquired from JUCO. That dude is like 6'8", and he just seemed to have all the arms all the length in the world. I don't even know what I was saying. All the arms in the world? I don't even know what that means. But he basically gives me like Mikal Bridges vibes on the Suns. Just long arms, can play defense. And he was 1 of 2 from 3 last night. So we'll see if that part of his game expands. He had 15 points. Kamani Lawrence, I mean, seriously, it's his 5th year playing basketball at ASU. Like, he should be pretty solid. Like, he should be one of the main contributors on this team. Like, he probably has a grown man body after working out for all these years. Like, he's a legit adult going against children right now. So I expect Kamani Lawrence to be pretty solid for this team. Marcus Bagley, I think, is of course going to be the X factor because he was someone that had a ton of hype coming in last year. He was like a top 30 ranked prospect. Him and Josh Christopher were highly touted recruits coming into last year. Scouting reports and projections before the year last season was like this guy could be a mid first round pick. And by the end of the season, it was like maybe a second rounder. Maybe he shouldn't declare for the draft, and he decided to come back. And now he's got a great chance. He seems like he's going to be the man on this team. And if this team goes far, if this team makes a serious run at the tournament or a serious run in the tournament, Marcus Bagley is going to be getting a lot of buzz, and he could be another Sun Devil drafted into the NBA. We see Dort there. He's killing it. We see Josh Christopher. I mean, he's been playing, I think, sparingly with the Rockets, but still getting a little bit of run. So I would love to see Marcus Bagley on this team as well. But you said you don't expect anything crazy from this team, but this is a Sports Illustrated podcast, and Sports Illustrated did think in their projections that maybe ASU isn't good enough to make the tournament. Donnie, how do you respond to your own company network saying your school isn't going to make the tournament? How do you respond to that?
Oh man, I think well, it's really interesting. If you go back and read that article, I had pointed out that they had used their like 1 through 358 team rankings to use the field. And I'm looking, and obviously the tournament field is a team of 68. And they had ASU ranked like 56th or 58th. And I'm like, how are you going to have them ranked inside the top 64, inside the top 68, and not put them in the tournament field? Like, I really have no idea what's going on here. And look, I get it. Like, they didn't make the tournament last year. They lost guys like Remy Martin, Alonzo Gaffney, and Josh Christopher to the NBA, obviously. There's a lot of new blood, something Tempe really doesn't see a whole lot. So, it is going to take some time for them to mesh. That was very evident last night. I mean, it's going to take some time for everybody to kind of get their feet settled with, playing with each other, excuse me. But man, like, if this team can put everything together, they're going to be solid. And I fully expect them to make the NCAA tournament. And we got the receipts over here. So whenever they do, we're going to be pulling out the receipts and referencing the mothership of all people, the mothership doubting ASU basketball. Can't believe it.
Well, the mothership needs to beam me up because I'm on board right now. I don't really believe in this Sun Devil team too much. Hey, they beat Portland State. Congrats.
I respect it, man, because there's a lot that this team still needs to prove.
Yeah, I just don't think they have as much talent or the ceiling that they might have had in the past, especially when I look at their guards like Remy Martin and Alonzo Verge could just get to the paint at will, knife through defenses. I'm not sure if they got the same bodies to do that in the past. I like their length a little bit more, maybe their front court than the past, but I'm not sure if their backcourt is as talented. So I'll give it time. They got a pretty lighter schedule to start. I want to say they played North Florida on Monday, so we'll see. Oh, they play UC Riverside tomorrow, so they don't have the craziest schedule to start. The first test might come on the November 24th when they play number 8 Baylor, so we'll be on the lookout for that. But right now, I'm cooling on ASU till I see more because I think you brought up a great point. This team has been kind of a veteran team. Like they usually kind of ran it back. Of course, they added Josh Christopher and a Marcus Bagley because, of course, in college you're adding guys every year. But this was usually a team that had around the same nucleus and core of guys, 3, 4, 5 guys for the last 3 seasons. And now it's kind of a new team outside of Kamani Lawrence, who eventually is going to be coaching this team, I guess. I mean, Bobby Hurley should just promote him to an assistant after this season. Just graduate and go right to the staff. So shout out Kamani Lawrence. No disrespect or hate toward you, but I mean, you should perform and be productive as a 5th-year senior. But Donnie, one quick shout out before we wrap up here today. Shout out ASU women's basketball who took down North Colorado yesterday, 71-41. So if ASU men's basketball, if ASU football just go down in the toilet like we might expect, we don't know. We still got hope and optimism, of course. But if their season starts to go the wrong way, go turn your attention to Sun Devils women's basketball because they are consistently one of the best teams in the NCAA from a women's side. So shout out to them. But Donnie, any last thoughts before we depart here today?
Nah, it's going to be a really good time to be a Sun Devil fan, between Football season coming to a close. The game's getting bigger as the season goes on. Basketball season pulling up. Baseball is going to be here before long. And, for those who don't know, AC has a really good hockey program as well. So definitely go check them out if you get a moment. I think soccer season is starting to wrap up a little bit for the fall as well. So tons of ASU sports and tons of ASU coverage at AllSunDevils.com.
Yeah, is it a good time, Donnie? They just love these gut punchers, these ASU programs. They love to just get your hopes and expectation levels up and then just right to the gut, just gut check every week, basically.
It's like being stabbed with a pitchfork, man. It's great.
Yeah, being stabbed with a pitchfork right through your eyes. I like that. Millard Thomas, Donnie Druin. Of course, if you want to stay up to date on all SunDevil news, updates, stories, sports, whatever you want to see, just head to allsundevils.com where we got the best reporters working around the clock just for you.